I'm Jay Elias, General Legal Counsel at Dyer Lake Funeral Home in North Attleboro. Welcome to this episode of Live and Learn, a series of programs designed to be informative, educational, and upbeat, and always intended to encourage and enhance our personal wellness and awareness. In this episode, we're going to take a look at our somewhat quirky English language. I really enjoy creating these Live and Learn programs. Typically, I begin by thinking about what I hope will be an interesting topic. Then, I start my research on the subject and try to frame my thoughts in a way that will be both interesting and informative. Why am I saying this? It's that I was speaking with someone after I had taped the last episode and was asked when I had to tape my next one. There was something about the way they asked me, not when do you tape the next episode, instead it was when do you have to tape the next episode. And I was reminded of a program I had moderated about how our attitudes can play a significant role in our physical and emotional well-being. And in turn, how our choice of words can have a profound impact on not only our attitudes, but how others perceive us. I don't have to write or tape these programs. I get to do so. I want to do so. If I have to do something, then it's an obligation. It's a chore and a burden. But if I get to do something, it's a privilege, an honor. And if I want to do something, well, it's a pleasure. And so the choice of one word in a sentence, one simple word that isn't even the primary word in the sentence, can change the whole meaning of what's being said. It seems that all too often we don't give much thought, or maybe we don't give enough thought to the words we use. Too often we fail to appreciate how our words, or the tone of our words, will be received and perceived by others. It's been said that there are three types of people when it comes to speaking. 1, those who think before they speak. 2, those who think while they speak. And 3, those who think after they speak. Some people really take pride in the fact that they speak what's on their minds. It's a badge of honor for them to tell it like it is, no matter what the subject or who they're talking to. For them, whatever they say is totally appropriate because they believe they speak the truth. And so there's no need to filter their words. After all, it's the truth. Then there are those who cautiously choose not only their words, but how they say them, reluctant to express their honest opinions for fear of hurting someone's feelings or being misunderstood. And like most everything else in life, there are the remainder among us whose choice of words and the manner of speech lies somewhere between the overly cautious person and the one with no filter. Although the origins of human language will probably remain forever obscure, we know that all social animals communicate in some form with each other, from bees and ants to whales and apes. But it seems that only humans have developed a language which is more than a set of prearranged signals. Our speech even differs in a physical way from the communications of other animals. Ours comes from a part of our brain that doesn't respond instinctively as it does with other animals. Instead, we organize the sounds we hear and assign them meaning on a rational basis. When and how this special talent of language developed, it's impossible to say, but it's generally assumed that its evolution was undoubtedly the result of a very lengthy process. Our ancestors were probably speaking 1,000,000 years ago, but with a slower delivery, a smaller vocabulary, and above all, a simpler grammar than we're accustomed to. Today, there are more than 7,000 languages spoken around the world. Which language is the most commonly spoken? Well, Mandarin Chinese is the most spoken language in the world when we count only first language or native speakers. That's because of the significant population of China. But when we factor in those who speak more than one language, English is actually the most spoken language in the world. As it turns out, Mandarin Chinese is spoken in about 30 different countries, while English is spoken in almost 150. In the 1600s, between 5 and 7 million people spoke English, almost all of them living in the British Isles. Now, almost 2 billion people around the world speak English. Why? Well, the English language traveled the world by sailors, soldiers, pilgrims, traders, missionaries of the British Empire, reaching all the corners of the globe. And long ago there was a saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire, and in fact, at one point in the early 20th century, the British Empire expanded across almost a quarter of the world's surface, and that's not including the United States. The thing is, though, English is an inherently difficult language to learn. It has a baffling spelling system, as we'll explore. In the English vocabulary, some words can be spelled the same, but have different meanings. Or they can sound the same, but be spelled differently. And certain verbs take on new meaning when we simply attach one small word to them. Take, for example, the word run. We can run over something, have a run-in with someone, run up a hill, run up a bill. We can even run something by someone or run it into the ground. And then there are something called idioms. An idiom involves a number of words whose meaning can't be predicted simply by adding together the meaning of each of the individual words. Let me try to explain with a couple of examples. When I told him about it, he jumped down my throat. Or, she hit the roof. Or, he's under the weather. So you see, the literal meaning of each of the individual words is not what is exactly meant. And as we all know, the English language can be like a giant riddle, filled with contradictions, rules, exceptions, and total unpredictability. There's a wonderful poem called Asylum for the Verbally Insane, and it can be found in several versions, and it's most often attributed to a woman by the name of Alice Hess Beveridge, who hailed from the state of Georgia. Born in the late 1800s, she passed away in the 1950s. And here are a few choice verses from her poem, Asylum for the Verbally Insane. And every time I read it, I'm somehow reminded of Dr. Seuss. I wonder if you will be too. Here we go. We'll begin with a box, and the plural is boxes. But the plural of ox becomes oxen, not oxes. One fowl is a goose, but two are called geese, yet the plural of moose should never be meese. You may find a lone mouse or a nest full of mice, yet the plural of house is houses, not heis. If the plural of man is always called men, why shouldn't the plural of pan be called pen? If I speak of my foot and show you my feet and I give you a boot, would a pair be called beat? If one is a tooth and a whole set are teeth, why shouldn't the plural of booth be called beath? Then one may be that and three would be those, yet hat in the plural would never be hose, and the plural of cat is cats, not coes. We speak of a brother and also of brethren, but though we say mother, we never say methrin. Then the masculine pronouns are he, his, and him. But imagine the feminine, she, shiz, and shim. And if fathers are called pop, why aren't mothers called mop? And here are a few more quirks found in our English language. We find that quicksand actually works slowly. And think of a boxing ring. It's almost always square. A guinea pig is neither from Guinea nor is it a pig. Why is it that writers write, but fingers don't fing? Grocers don't gross. Hammers don't ham. If teachers taught, why don't preachers prot? And in our wonderful English language, if a vegetarian eats vegetables, what does a humanitarian eat? And in what other language do people recite at a play, but play at a recital, or ship by truck, but send cargo by ship? We have noses that run and feet that smell. We park in our driveway, but drive in a parkway. And I could keep going on, but here's the last one. Why do we fill in a form by filling it out? Words. Words can also be a powerful force. We can choose to use their power constructively with words of encouragement or destructively with words of condescension. Words have energy and power and the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, humiliate, and to humble. Words, just spoken words. The words we choose to use can have a dramatic impact on how others understand and view us and our relationships with them. Words can have the power to change someone's mind. They can alter someone's beliefs. Words. We can lift someone's spirits or destroy their happiness using only our words. Choose them wisely, for once they've been spoken, they can't be forgotten. And it's not only the meaning of the words we use that have power, it can be the way we use those words. The very emphasis we place on certain words can make all the difference in the world as to how those words are received and understood by the listener. Consider this sentence. I never said he stole my money. I never said he stole my money. Placing the emphasis on each of the different words entirely changes the meaning of that same sentence. Same words, simply stressing different words. I never said he stole my money. 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 Imagine reading those words without the benefit of hearing them and without any emphasis. The meaning of the sentence would be left entirely to the reader, and undoubtedly each of us would form a different impression of what those words meant. And consider this sentence. She told him that she loved him. She told him that she loved him. Placing the word only anywhere in that sentence, and the meaning changes considerably every time. She only told him that she loved him. She told only him that she loved him. She told him only that she loved him. She told him that only she loved him. She told him that she only loved him. She told him that she loved only him. Phew. So it's not only the words we use to convey our messages or our tone, it can be our body language while we speak as well. There's an interesting theory known as the 7-38-55 rule. That rule is a concept that relates to the communication of emotions. The rule states that when we communicate, only 7% of our meaning is communicated through our spoken word. 7%. 38% through the tone of our voice, and 55% of our meaning is communicated through our body language. The rule was developed by a professor of psychology at UCLA by the name of Albert Mehrabian, and he articulated this concept in a 1971 book called Silent Messages. Why, even the FBI has applied Mehrabian's 7-38-55 rule to the field of its negotiations. It seems that from the smallest movement of our hands to the way we stand, our body language really is a powerful form of nonverbal communication most of us express and interpret without even thinking about it. Switching gears a bit, have you ever wondered about the extent of the average person's vocabulary? We take language for granted, and most of the time we're not even aware of how many words we actually know or use on a daily basis. Here are some facts. At 1 year of age, the average American child will recognize about 50 words. That increases to about 1,000 words by the time they reach age 3, and 5,000 words by the time they reach age 4. And by age 5, the average child has a vocabulary size of about 10,000 words. We have both a passive vocabulary and an active one. The words we understand but don't use regularly are referred to as our passive vocabulary. And those that we frequently use in our everyday life reflect our active vocabulary. It's been said that that active vocabulary of an average adult is about 20 to 25,000 words, while our passive vocabulary, the words that we understand, is more than twice that number, or about 50,000 words. And with the English language, what's also confusing are not just the sheer number of grammatical rules we have to grapple with, it's the fact that there are almost as many exceptions to those rules. For example, most of us remember from our elementary school days that when spelling, we're to use I before E, except after C, which is why we write the word believe, B-E-L-I-E-V-E, or relieve. And yet we write the word receipt, R-E-C-E-I-P-T, differently. But we spell the word seize, S-E-I-Z-E, there's no C there, or weird, W-E-I-R-D, with the E before the I, and yet science, which is S-C-I-E-N-C-E, is spelled with the I after the C, which contradicts the first rule. English has plenty of irregular verbs as well, and that basically means that certain verbs don't conform to accepted or normal rules. There are hundreds of irregular verbs in the English language, and I suspect that we've all had to pause to consider if we're using the right word or the right tense, and so on. For example, I drink coffee every morning. I drank 6 cups of coffee yesterday. I have drunk 27 cups of coffee this week. You wouldn't say, for example, I drinked 27 cups of coffee this week. And although the present tense of the word is fight, and the simple past tense is fought, for example, not fighted, instead of the word fight, let's say the word light. Its past tense is not lot, as with fought, it's lit. There are languages such as Spanish where you pronounce the words exactly as they're written. In English, though, there can be multiple ways to pronounce words that have almost the same letter combination, such as T-H-R-O-U-G-H, through, or tough, T-O-U-G-H, or thought, T-H-O-U-G-H-T, through, tough, thought. Bough, as in the bough of a tree, B-O-U-G-H, or bought, B-O-U-G-H-T. We pronounce bow, B-O-W, the same as bow, B-O-U-G-H, and through, as in through the ball, the same as through, looking through the window. Those words are called homophones, that is, words that have the same sound but are spelled differently and have different meanings. To, T-O. The number 2, T-W-O. The to that means also, T-O-O. The word pray, P-R-A-Y, to pray, or to pray, P-R-E-Y, to prey on an animal. Or break, B-R-A-K-E and B-R-E-A-K, as in, when teaching my son how to drive a car, I told him if he didn't hit the brake in time, he'd likely break the side view mirror. Or take the word sell, C-E-L-L, and sell, S-E-L-L. If you sell drugs, you'll end up spending time in a prison cell, and those are called homophones. They sound the same, but have very different meanings and different spellings. And then there are homographs. These are words that are spelled the same, but are different in their meaning and often in their pronunciation. Take, for example, the letters B-O-W, bow or bow. Here's the sentence. They are having archery classes at the bow of the ship, so don't forget to bring your bow and arrow. Or the letters L-E-A-D, lead or lead, as in take the lead pipe when you lead the way. Another one that comes to mind is W-I-N-D, as in the wind blew the curtains open, or don't forget to wind the clock before you leave. And here's something altogether different, something called a contronym. Those are words that are spelled the same but have almost diametrically opposite meanings. For example, buckle. To buckle is often to connect, as in I forgot to buckle my belt today. Or it can mean separating or falling apart, as in the bridge buckled under the weight of the truck. Or the word clip, to attach. Clip the pieces of paper together. Or it can mean to cut and separate, as in clip the coupons from the newspaper. Can you imagine trying to learn the English language as a second language with all of these exceptions, the rules? One of the more difficult challenges in the English language, particularly for those learning it as a second language, are the many silent letters we encounter every day. Silent letters can be found in the beginning, middle, and end of many of our words. And just because a letter may be silent in one word that begins with a certain letter, doesn't necessarily mean it's silent in another word beginning with the same letter. There are the silent K's, as in having knock knees, not knock knees. And we don't say set the dinner table with a fork, with the K, fork, a spoon, and a knife. There are the silent P's found in the Peace Corps, for example. No, not in the word peace, but in the word corps, C-O-R-P-S, which also contains a silent S. There is psychology that starts with the P, receipt that has the P in the middle, cupboard with a P, and psalm, P-S-A-L-M. Consider the silent B, climb, comb, crumb, debt, doubt, numb, subtle, thumb, lamb. Not a B to be heard. And silent L's are everywhere. Could, should, would, talk, chalk, calf, half, salmon, yolk. Have you ever called the plumber to fix a clogged drain? And although we write our signature, pronouncing the word with a hard G, we don't sign a check. Autumn, column, condemn, damn, hymn, solemn. Not an N to be heard. And I wouldn't even know where to begin to explain how it is that we pronounce the word colonel, as in the originator of KFC, Colonel Harland Sanders, not to be mistaken for a kernel of corn. One spelled C-O-L-O-N-E-L, and one spelled K-E-R-N-A-L. And not to be confused with the word that we use to describe the early days of the colonies, as in the word colonial, which is very similar to the spelling of colonel, as in Colonel Sanders. It seems that the word colonel, as in Colonel Sanders, came to our English language from the mid-16th century French word coronel, which means commander of a regiment or column of soldiers, hence the R sound. And if it's not confusing enough, let's not forget about the power of punctuation. Consider what happened when one English professor wrote the following phrase, which you'll see on your screen, on the chalkboard, and asked his class to punctuate it. A woman without her man is nothing. A woman without her man is nothing. It seems that all the men in the class wrote, a woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing. While all the women in the class wrote, a woman, colon, without her, man is nothing. And even though you're watching this show, why is it that you're not referred to as a watcher, but as a viewer? The quirky English language. I'm Jay Elias. Thank you for watching this episode of Live and Learn. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to your joining me again for another program designed to enhance and encourage your wellness and awareness. Until then, remember, it's never too late to learn or to choose your words wisely.